Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're going to be talking about something that's got history, diplomacy, and, maybe a little bit of sparkle too.
Oh, sparkle for sure. We're about to unpack a royal gift, one that's so much more than just a dazzling jewel. It really gives you a glimpse into change in times and relationships that, have stood the test of time.
Yeah, and it got me thinking, with King Charles's first state visit coming up, what kind of gifts will symbolize his reign?
That is a fascinating parallel. Looking back to that moment in 1947 with Princess Elizabeth really helps us understand how these gifts, especially those exchanged on the world stage, become these really powerful symbols. Like they mean something beyond just the thing itself,
Okay, so picture this. 1947, a 21-year-old Princess Elizabeth is embarking on a royal tour of South Africa. It's her first big international trip, and the whole world's watching her step onto the global stage. You can just feel the anticipation, right?
And don't forget, this is just a few years after World War II. The world is still kind of putting itself back together, and this tour, well, it was carefully planned to show this image of unity and strength, especially for the Commonwealth.
So, with all this going on, this huge EE ball is held in Princess Elizabeth's honor at Government House in Cape Town. Can you imagine the scene?
Oh, absolutely. This wasn't just any party. It was a carefully orchestrated, a display of South Africa's loyalty to the crown and the guest list. Anyone in South African society would have been there, all excited to celebrate the young princess.
And it's at this ball that Princess Elizabeth gets this incredible birthday gift. It's a diamond necklace, and it's presented by none other than Field Marshal Jan Smuts. Now, this is where the historical context gets super interesting, don't you think?
Absolutely. Smuts wasn't just some politician, He was a major figure in South African politics, a well-respected statesman, and even advised Winston Churchill during the war. The fact that he personally gave this gift to the princess, well, that really emphasizes how important it was.
It's like a piece of global history being handed over right there in that necklace.
Exactly. It wasn't about giving a pretty necklace. It was a very deliberate act. Like they were trying to strengthen that bond between South Africa and the British monarchy.
Okay, but let's talk about the necklace for a minute because it was seriously breathtaking. We're talking 21 graduated, brilliant cut diamonds with a 10-carat stone right in the center.
Wow, it must have been just dazzling. And think about the craftsmanship. Every single diamond, carefully picked, cut, and set to create something fit for a princess.
And it gets even better. Just a few days before her birthday, Princess Elizabeth got another diamond, this one a 6-carat beauty, from Sir Ernest Oppenheimer, the big guy at De Beers. This diamond was actually designed to be detachable, so it added this personal touch to an already magnificent necklace.
That detachable part, I love that detail. It shows they really put thought into it. The gift wasn't just a big gesture, it was something the princess could, change and make her own.
And we know how much she loved it. There's actually a quote from a letter she wrote to her grandmother, Queen Mary, where she calls the South African diamonds the biggest and most striking of all her birthday gifts. You can practically hear the excitement in her words, right?
It's like we get to see that personal connection she had with the gift. Beyond all the fancy stuff and the politics, this was a young woman receiving a really special birthday present. And the fact that she kept those feelings close throughout her life, that says a lot, I think.
So we've got this stunning necklace, a symbol of friendship between countries, and Princess Elizabeth wears it for years. But then things change. Her life changes, her style changes, everything.
Right. In 1952, she becomes Queen Elizabeth II. That new role meant a new purpose and, maybe a desire for a more modern look. And that's when she decided to change the necklace, shortening it to just 15 stones.
That's what gets me. Was it just about style? Keeping up with fashion? Or was it a deliberate choice, a way to show how she wanted to be seen as queen?
It's a good question, isn't it? You could see it as just a style update, but I think it was more than that. Remember, this was a huge time of change for the monarchy. The whole world was watching her, and every single decision she made, every detail was analyzed. It's like she was saying, hey, I'm honoring the past, but I'm also ready for something new, a new era.
Yeah, and how she used those diamonds she took off. So smart. She had them, and that original 6-carat clasp made into a matching bracelet. It wasn't just about fashion, it was about making the most of this gift that meant so much to her.
It's pretty amazing that she kept using every single diamond from that original gift. It shows how practical she was, but also how much it all meant to her.
It really adds something special to the story, doesn't it? It's not just a gift from one country to another. It shows her style, her cleverness. This whole South African diamond set, it's like a real tangible connection to this specific moment in history, a symbol of how things changed between those two nations.
It makes you wonder about all those other treasures, tucked away in some royal vault, all with their own fascinating stories just waiting to be discovered.
Exactly. Which brings us to today and King Charles's state visit that's coming up. Do you think we'll see that same kind of emphasis on these, tangible symbols of goodwill?
It's hard to say, really. Times have changed, and the monarchy isn't what it used to be. But I still think giving gifts, especially between world leaders, has a lot of power. It's a way to connect and show shared values.
Makes you wonder how the gifts themselves might reflect those changing times. Back then, diamonds were a classic choice, a symbol of lasting value. But today, what kind of gifts would really hit home in the 21st century? Maybe something focused on sustainability or cultural exchange.
Ooh, that's an interesting thought. Maybe we'll see gifts that showcase innovation, or even those focused on making a difference in the world, like humanitarian causes and stuff.
That'd be incredible, wouldn't it? A gift that helps the environment in both countries, or a scholarship that helps people understand each other's cultures better.
Gifts like that would send a strong message about what's important to them, their values. It'd be a modern way to handle diplomacy and international relations.
It's wild how these gift exchanges, which are all about tradition, can also be a way to do something new. Adds another layer to it all, don't you think? Plus, you get a glimpse into these personal relationships, even with all the formality of the occasion.
Oh, for sure. Remember that panda diplomacy thing back in the 20th century? Those moves, they went beyond just words, They built cultural connections that lasted. Even in these big ceremonies, the gifts remind us that it's still about people connecting with each other. That's a big part of how countries get along.
So as we wait to see what gifts are exchanged during King Charles's visit, all we can do is wonder, what new treasures will we see? How will they help us understand this new chapter for the British monarchy? Will they stick with tradition? Or will they try something totally new?
Maybe a little bit of both. It's a time of change and new beginnings for the monarchy. One thing's for sure, the whole world will be watching. And those gifts, whatever they are, will become part of history, just like those South African diamonds. Maybe they'll even make people think and reflect for years to come, just like those diamonds did.
Gives me chills just thinking about it. It really shows how we're always making history, even with something as simple as giving a gift.
It's pretty remarkable. These objects become artifacts, like little containers of memory and meaning.
And talking about those South African diamonds, it's amazing how a gift given with so much kindness and generosity has turned into this lasting symbol. Makes you realize how these things become like physical connections to the past, doesn't it? I'm really glad we did this deep dive together today.
Me too. It reminds you that even in our crazy, fast-paced world, it's good to slow down, appreciate those glimpses of the past, and think about the stories behind these objects. It's worth it.
Yeah, it really does make you think, what will be the big things that people remember about King Charles's time as king? Like, what will historians in the future be looking at and trying to figure out? What do they say about the gifts he got and the ones he gave?
That's a great question. What things will represent this whole new era of the monarchy, And it's not just the objects themselves, it's the stories they tell and what they mean.
Right. We've been talking about those South African diamonds as this symbol of diplomacy and how things changed between those two countries. But they're also a reminder that these gifts, they're both personal and political. It's like they're doing double duty.
That's what makes them so interesting. You got the beauty of how they're made, the artistry of the objects, but then you dig a little deeper and you find all this historical context, the reasons why they were given, and the relationships behind it all. Each piece of the story adds to how rich it is, making these things way more than just something pretty to look at.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion, right?
Yeah.
Except this onion's made of diamonds and steeped in history.
A very fancy onion, for sure. And with every layer, we understand more, not just about the object, but about the people and the events that made it what it is.
And that brings us back to those South African diamonds. It's amazing how something given with such warmth and generosity has become this real connection to a specific time. It's a legacy that's still shining, both literally and figuratively.
It does make you wonder what King Charles's legacy will be, doesn't it? What gifts, what actions, what moments will people remember about his time as king? It's kind of exciting to be seeing history happen right in front of us.
I totally agree. This whole deep dive has been a great reminder that even with how busy and modern our world is, it's good to take a minute to appreciate those peeks into the past. Think about the stories behind these objects, and consider the legacies that are being made right now.
Well said. And as we wrap things up, I want to leave everyone with something to think about. How do gifts, especially those given on a big stage like that, become more than just things? How do they turn into powerful symbols of relationships, history, and shared values? Something to keep in mind as we watch this new chapter unfold.
Definitely. And who knows, maybe someday we'll be doing a deep dive into the gifts exchanged during King Charles's time, admiring their beauty, uncovering their hidden stories, and seeing how they fit into the bigger picture of history. Until then, happy pondering, everyone.